There are two ways to trap a bishop in chess. First, use your pawns to block the bishop's movement and put it in a jail. Second, move your pawns to not only trap the bishop but also to eventually capture it. Now let's look at both of these techniques one by one. So how do we form a pawn chain to put a bishop in a jail? Well, let's look at this example. e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, all the 4 knights coming out, it's a standard opening, and now d3, d6, bishop g5, white is pinning the knight to black's queen. So since black hasn't already castled on the king side, black can play h6, attacking the bishop immediately. Here the best move for black to play is to capture the knight, but if the bishop goes back to h4, then you can boldly play g5, attacking the bishop one more time. And since you have already weakened your king side, it's okay, you can castle on the queen side. The bishop will go to the g3 square, but look at this poor bishop. It can't go back to these squares. It doesn't have access to these two squares. So what you have effectively done is put this dark squared bishop in a jail. This bishop is of no use in the game, and as long as you maintain this pawn structure, this bishop will remain a useless piece in the entire game. Now if white wants to really make this bishop active, then first he will have to move his knight, then push this pawn over here or here, and then get this bishop over here, but that's going to take a lot of moves, and white surely won't get such huge amount of time in the game. There is a very beautiful game played by Capablanca demonstrating this strong concept of putting the bishop in a jail, which we are soon about to see in a couple of minutes. Now let's head on to the second technique. Let's see how to push pawns in order to trap and capture a bishop. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Black attacks the bishop and the bishop moves to the a4 square. d6 by black, d4 by white. White's intention is to play d5 in order to attack the pinned piece over here. So black responds with b5, attacks the bishop. Bishop moves to b3, and now knight takes pawn, knight takes knight, and pawn takes knight, and until here the game is fine. But if white gets greedy and captures this pawn over here with his queen, then he is gone, because now no one can save this bishop over here. How? Black can immediately start attacking with c5. Black is not only attacking the queen but is also threatening to play c4 in order to trap and capture the bishop. White can't let that happen, so white might play queen to d5, threatening a checkmate at the f7 square as well as attacking the undefended rook over here. Black can easily respond it with bishop to e6, defending the checkmate point as well as defending the rook over here. Now if the queen moves back, then the bishop would be trapped. So white might try queen to c6 check, and now black defends with bishop to d7. White threatens checkmate one more time with queen to d5, but now you don't have to be scared of that because you can simply play c4 and trap the bishop over here. So you see how beautifully black has pushed his pawns in order to trap the bishop. Now this example that you just saw is a very popular chess trap known as the Noah's Ark trap. I've already made a detailed video on this trap, the link of which is given in the description box. Now what can white play here? Since white can't save the bishop, so he'll capture the pawn, you capture back the bishop and the pawn is gone, and see, this is how you win the bishop. And now let's look at the Capablanca's game where he traps the opponent's dark squared bishop in such a way that it remained in one part of the board as a useless piece, which made his opponent cry. Well, not literally, but yeah, let's quickly have a look at the game. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, bishop b5, bishop b4, all standard opening moves, castles, castles, and now the opponent captures the knight, Capablanca captures back with the pawn, and d3 by opponent. And now since this bishop is not really pinning the knight, so Capablanca moved his bishop to the d6 square. His opponent William Winter now played bishop to g5, pinning Capablanca's knight to the queen. Capablanca didn't like the opponent's bishop in his territory, so he decided to attack this bishop. So he played h6, attacking the bishop over here. William took his bishop to the h4 square, maintaining the pin, and now Capablanca played c5 and his opponent played knight to d5, putting more pressure over here on this pinned piece. Capablanca really didn't like his opponent trying to dominate his game, so he played g5, immediately unpinning the knight as well as attacking the opponent's bishop. His opponent played knight takes knight check, queen takes knight, and now the bishop went to the g3 square. But look at this poor bishop. Can't go here, can't go here, doesn't have access to these two squares. This bishop has become a useless piece on the chessboard. If white really wants to bring this bishop back into the game, then he will have to move the knight, push this pawn somewhere and get this bishop either over here or here so that it can come back in the game. But that's gonna cost a lot of moves, and Capablanca is smart. He's not gonna give his opponent time to make this bishop alive, since he already knows that in order to activate this bishop, his opponent will first have to move this knight. Therefore, immediately Capablanca plays bishop to g4, pinning this knight to the white's queen. Now you can't move your knight. His opponent is really frustrated now. He's like, what the heck is this? So he plays h3 in order to attack the bishop. And now what should Capablanca play over here? Should he take the bishop back in order to maintain the spin, or should he capture the knight? I'll give you 5 seconds to think. Well, if you take your bishop back to h5, then this bishop will go back over here and this pawn is coming to attack your bishop. Then you will have to move your bishop over here and ultimately your light squared bishop would be dead. Like, seriously. So Capablanca didn't really want to make his bishop die. So he played bishop takes knight, queen takes bishop, and now in order to make his opponent's life more difficult, Capablanca captured the queen. What's the idea? Because after this capture, his opponent will have to capture back with the pawn, obviously. But now, in order to make this bishop live again, first he has to move the pawn, then this pawn, then the bishop will come over here and then maybe over here. It's gonna take 4 moves. And you're playing against Capablanca. What do you think? He's not gonna give you a single move to fix your ruined position. Capablanca now played f6, a very good move. He's just strengthening the pawns over here, which are doing a very good job of controlling these 2 squares. His opponent played king to g2 and now a5. Why a5? Because Capablanca is like, this bishop is useless, he cannot get into the game. So let me just start a queenside attack with all my pawns and 3 of my pieces. And guess what? Who will be defending the queenside? Just these 2 rooks. So 2 rooks against 3 pieces? Well, white is definitely gonna lose the queenside. So that is why a5, such a good move. William immediately sensed the danger. He knew that he cannot defend just with 2 rooks against these 3 pieces. So he played a4 in order to stop any queenside counter activity. King to f7 by Capablanca, rook h1, king e6. Capablanca is like, there's nothing that you can do on the king side. I'm not afraid. So let me just activate my king and bring it to a better place where it controls some really good squares. h4 by the opponent is trying to get rid of this pawn which is controlling these 2 important squares. And what did Capablanca play over here? Did he capture the pawn or did he play something else? I'll give you 5 seconds to think. So obviously if you capture the pawn, you are making this bishop come back into the game. This bishop is now targeting this f6 pawn, the rook will be targeting this h6 pawn and suddenly white is back into the game. So capturing the pawn is definitely a bad idea. So what did Capablanca play? Well, he simply ignored this pawn capture and played rook f to b8. He's bringing his rook to the queen side of the board where it can start attacking white. His opponent played pawn takes pawn. Capablanca obviously captured back with the h pawn. And now b3. Caps played c6. Why is he playing c6? Well, in order to prepare for the move b5, where the pawn will be supported by the c6 pawn as well as the rook over here. Now, there is obviously a lot of attack coming on the queen side. So his opponent moved the rook to the a2 square. b5 by Capablanca. The attack has already begun. And now rook h to a1 is like, oh my god, this queen side is about to open. Let me just double up my rooks on the a file where together they can target this a5 pawn over here. And what should Capablanca play over here? Should he capture the pawn or should he play c4? I'll give you 5 seconds to think. Well, if you capture the pawn, then that isn't a good idea because white will capture back with his rook and suddenly white is now putting tremendous pressure on this pawn. So when you are attacking, you don't want to play any single move which gives chance to your opponent to do some counter activity. So what did Capablanca play? Obviously c4, trying to dismantle, trying to disrupt this good pawn structure that white has formed. His opponent played a takes b5 and now Capablanca didn't capture back this pawn but instead said, I know you are attacking my pawn, fine. You attack my pawn, guess what? I'm going to attack your rook over here. So opponent was obviously forced to capture this pawn first. So c takes b3 and now rook takes b5, not only attacks the pawn but also defends the a5 pawn over here. Also, white's pawn structure, which was so strong once upon a time, has now been broken. White has now two weaknesses and his bishop is still sleeping in this little jail that Capablanca has created for him. And white's position looks doomed over here. His opponent played rook to a4 and Capablanca grabbed the b3 pawn, attacking another weak pawn over here. So white played d4 and here is the key moment. What should Capablanca played over here? This pawn is attacking this pawn. So should he capture back the pawn or should he play something else? I'll give you 5 seconds to think. Well, if you thought of capturing this pawn, then congratulations, because you have just helped your opponent activate his bishop, which was earlier sitting in jail. Your opponent now can capture this pawn with a double attack on this bishop. And now things are slightly better for white over here. So let's go back. Hence, you cannot make the mistake of capturing this pawn. Since you have put the opponent's bishop in a jail, let him sulk there till the end of his time. So don't capture this. So what did Capablanca play then? Well, he played rook to b5, defending this, and everything is taken care of. Opponent played rook to c4, attacking the pawn over here. But Capablanca is like, fine, I'm not gonna waste my time defending this. I'm just gonna counter attack with rook to b4 because even this pawn is threatened now. So his opponent captured at c6, Capablanca captured at d4, and here at this point of time, his opponent resigned in the game. Can you tell me why? Well, it's obvious. Capablanca has a strong passed pawn on the A file. It's been supported by this beautiful rook on the A8 square. The other rook over here can help this pawn get promoted once it reaches the A2 square. Also, Capablanca can simply get his king over here, unpin the bishop, and now the bishop can jump over here and can easily control the queening square of the pawn. These three pieces of Capablanca are so strong that white's two rooks aren't sufficient to defend this losing position. Also, not to forget, this beautiful bishop behind the bars who is doing nothing but enjoying a drink of defeat. So, at move 29th, his opponent resigned. But where did the game got worse? Well, when the bishop got on g3 square, this is where things started changing. Capablanca absolutely made sure that he will not let this bishop out for the entire game. And that's what made him win this game. So this is how you trap your opponent's bishop. And now let's see if you can trap your opponent's bishops. Let's try to solve these 5 challenging puzzles I have for you. So here it is white's turn to play. And can you trap your opponent's bishop? I'll give you 10 seconds to think, but if you need more time, feel free to pause this video. So look at this poor bishop. It cannot come here, and if you saw this, then congratulations, you already know what to play. But the thing is, if you play b4 first, then the opponent would know that you are about to trap his bishop with the move a5, so he will himself play a5. So then how to trap this bishop? Well, just change the order of the moves. Play a5 first, attacking the bishop. The bishop has got only one square, and now b4 traps the bishop. Let's look at second puzzle. This is a tough one, but if you are able to solve this, then you've got some serious skills to become a chess master. So white to play and win. So look at this poor bishop over here. It's trapped. It doesn't have any squares to go. All you need to do is find a way to attack this bishop with your pawn. I wish this pawn wasn't sitting over here. Then it would have been easier for you to play d6 and attack the trapped bishop. But guess what? You can get rid of this pawn with knight takes knight. Pawn takes knight and now d6, attacking the trapped bishop. Bishop takes pawn, queen takes bishop, and now you're up in material. Let's move on to the third one. White to play and win. b4 is the winning move. The knight cannot come here. The knight cannot take this. So the knight will have to go back to b7, ultimately blocking the path of this bishop. And now you can play b5 check, forking both the bishop and the king. Let's move on to the fourth one. Black to play and win. You've got 10 seconds. I know you must have seen this, right? This is how you want to trap this bishop over here. But the important part over here is which pawn should be moved first. So if you move this pawn, then white would immediately understand that you're trying to trap his bishop with d5. So he will either move his queen over here or over here so that the bishop gets an escape route. So that's why c6 doesn't work. Now if you play f5, the bishop will come over here, giving a check to the king, and now you can't trap him anymore. So the winning move over here is d5. Now if pawn takes pawn, then f5 immediately traps the bishop, and let's say if he captures the pawn with his bishop, then you can now start attacking the bishop with c6. Bishop moves over here, and now f5 wins the bishop. Let's move on to the last puzzle. This is very easy. It comes out of a very popular chess opening. Let's see if you are able to solve this one. So before I tell you the answer, do like this video and subscribe to my channel if you learned something new today. And now, if you want to trap this bishop, just start attacking it. g4, the pawn is guarded by the queen, so the bishop can take it. If the bishop comes over here, then you can attack one more time. So the bishop might come to the e4 square. But guess what? You can attack again with f3. The pawn is guarded. So bishop has to go back over here, and now you attack one more time, and sadly this bishop doesn't have any escape squares to go. The bishop is trapped and is eventually gonna get captured. And now wait. Don't run away, because it's time for the question of the day. So it's white's turn in the game, and you have to find the winning move for white over here. Let me know your answers in the comments box, and I'll see you in the next video.